Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello, hello.
We're good, baby.
The magical restart.
The magical restart. Dude, we restarted the computer.
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah.
The magical restart.
The magical restart. The power of restarting your computer.
And restarting the podcast after a couple-week hiatus.
Yeah, well, it hasn't felt like...
Viewers don't know.
Yeah, for the listeners, it has not been a couple-week hiatus. They've only missed 1 week because of my travel, which I apologize for, guys. That was... I guess it wasn't like regrettable. I had to do it for work. I had to go make money for my family, but...
How dare you?
How dare I? Let's do this.
Are we live?
Switch. We are live.
Okay. We're recording.
We are recording. I'm
maneuvering.
Making a really
equipment.
This is a cardinal audio engineer sin.
Moving it while you're recording.
And then like overlapping wires and stuff. I'm asking for interference right now.
Please, interference.
Okay, here we go. Levels look good. I think from now on, just from I did listen to Chris and I's interview.
Yeah.
And it was fine. It is usable.
Okay.
But it was the same. I don't know if you remember the episode a few episodes back where I couldn't get the levels working. And so there's that episode where I'm like, blah, 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 like screaming into the microphone. It was the same day. I recorded it the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And so
just a bad day.
Yeah, just a bad day. And so the levels were bad for that interview. So my new thing that I've learned in the audio engineering world, in the audio world, is that it is always better to opt for just a little quiet.
Okay, because then you can turn it up?
Yeah, because you can turn it up and you have way more wiggle room upwards before you start getting like this like digital interference sound.
That background humming or...
Yeah, and like if you go back, so like you can... like when I edit this down, there'll be options for me to come in and digitally alter the gain.
Okay.
So to raise the actual audio levels, but it's digital, so it's not from the originating sound. So it's altering it like by code. So it's not. So eventually you will get interference, like the sound, like some sort of like kind of robotic sound.
Right.
But also if you spike the mics the whole time, and then come back retroactively and try to turn it down,
right.
The actual volume gets lower, but you still get that really graining sound.
Because you blew out the mic.
Yeah. So there's no way to...
It doesn't have anything to work with.
Right, exactly. So I think going quieter, just like leaning towards quieter, and then turning up in post if I have to, I think that's the much better option. A little inside baseball. We'll let's start the podcast right now. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're here. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah, it's kind of a drizzly morning for us.
It is. It
overcast.
Is literally always raining every time we record.
Not raining hard yet.
Not yet.
Today. So if we can just make it this hour without a downpour, that would be great.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned about that looking at the weather report. I was like, I think we're going to get a really another go to sleep episode that's not relaxing. An ASMR that's no fun.
Very annoying episode ruining weather. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we'll get lucky. So, Jason, we just talked about this, but we're going to repeat it because I think there's a topic in there that's fun to talk about.
Okay.
You guys didn't notice this, none of the listeners, but Jason and I have been on a almost 3 week.
It's been 2 non-recording weeks.
So I
guess 3 weeks since we actually recorded.
Okay. So if we're doing the Hebrew counting system, that would include this
3.
week, so it's definitely 3. You guys didn't notice the interruption. I mean, I guess I was in Canada for work, and I forgot to upload an episode that week. So you guys missed 1 week. We apologize for that, but we're back on track. I went to Canada. And that was the topic. Canada is
a mess.
It's a weird place, man. It's weird because it's so like the U.S. It's almost, I mean, it is indistinguishable from the U.S. other than that there's French on all the signs instead of Spanish. So it's English and French. But other than that, totally American, except there are Indians everywhere. There are so many Indians in Canada. It is absurd.
Really?
Dude, there's not many Canadians. There are way more Indians. They're everywhere. Going, oh, hello, bobbing their heads back and forth. Hello, can I help you? It's crazy, dude. It's wild. And you can't comment on it. You get arrested.
You get arrested?
Yeah, you can't say faggot. You can't say, like, there's all kinds of stuff in Canada you can't say. You get arrested.
That's not relating to the Indians, though.
No, I guess that's true. It's not. But
That
if you
was an odd bridge.
I'm just saying,
You
like,
can't comment on Indians. You can't call them faggots.
yeah,
I was like,
well, I'm
that-
just
is that-
trying to communicate that there's no First Amendment there.
there you go.
Yeah,
There
so,
it is.
So, and they are real. They're
The
real tight on
connection
that.
is you can't talk about anything potentially sensitive
Right, exactly. Yeah.
or outright offensive.
Right, or
as the
outright
case
offensive.
may be.
Yeah, whether or not it's actually offensive, if somebody pretends to be offended about it, you're going to jail. So, yeah, it was really
Mark of a
weird.
healthy society.
Yeah, that is the mark of a healthy society when people can't talk to each other. So it was really weird. Canadians are. I told you about this on the phone. Canadians are very small. I was easily the largest person in the entire city of Toronto. That was really weird.
You became a landmark, a moving landmark.
Yeah, kind of. There's a lot of Japanese people there too.
Was there an Indian guy following you around going, hey, come see the largest Canadian?
I got out quickly enough that nobody figured out that business model.
Okay.
But
They missed
I
out.
saw some guys eyeballing
They
me.
could have made some money.
Yeah, they were eyeballing me. They were thinking, how can
Like,
I
we
leverage
have to
this
have-
gigantic white kid? Yeah. So that was crazy. Canada everybody's really nice.
You were telling me about how you sat down at a bar
Oh, I sat
and
down.
a dude sat down next to you and just drilled his eyes into your temple until you looked at him.
Yep.
And acknowledged him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
waited for you to speak first.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was really cool. I like that a lot, though. Like, he sat down at the bar and he looked at me. He ordered his beer and then he turned and looked at me and stared at me until I looked at him. And then I turned and looked at him. I was like, "What's up, man?" And he was like, "Nothing much, dude. What's going on?" And I was like,
Okay, I guess
Nothing-
we're,
yeah,
we're
I was
having
like,
conversation now.
"We buds now?" And he was like, "Let's talk, dude." And then I was just like, sick, what's going on? And he was like, "What about those vaccines, right?" And like leaned in immediately. Like, I don't know. I guess I just give off that aura, but like it was. We
I
were
thought
like,
that was what. Well, he found out you were from Texas, right? And then,
Right.
then he
That's
leaned
what it was.
into. He didn't
Yes.
just go straight into that.
right,
He didn't. He's not stupid.
right. I told him I was from Texas, and he was like, "Dude, the lockdown's crazy, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, pretty wild." And I was like, "Not for us." And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What was it like up here?" He's like, What remember on the
wasn't it
news?"
like?
Yeah, he was like, "Did you see everything on the news?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "It was that bad." And I was like, "Wild." And he's like, "What was it like down there?" And I was
Police
like,
pulling people out of their houses for having Thanksgiving dinners.
"Yeah." I mean, that's what he was saying. He was saying
Yanking
that it
people
was
out
like,
of their houses
yeah, he was saying that there was like
while
a-
their family's holding on to their other leg.
yeah, like 4 or 6 person limit depending on like the population of the city, and they very strictly enforce that. Like if your neighbor saw that you had too many cars at your outside of your house, like he was like, for sure your neighbor's going to call, and the cops will show up and they will like escalate the situation as wildly as they need to escalate it in order to interrupt your whatever.
Dude,
So
that's insane. I actually called the police station because when we lived in Oregon,
yeah,
the governor said put a limit on how many people can get together. I tried that
Yeah.
in Oregon,
yeah,
and I called the police station and was like, "Look, as and I asked if I could get in trouble for that or if they were going to enforce it
yeah.
or not." And his response, the officer that I talked to, was just like, he almost chuckled. He's like, "Look, we just want people to have a nice Thanksgiving with their families." Pretty much was like, "No,
Yeah.
we're not going to come interrupt you. That's stupid."
That's good. And that dude,
And
that-
so many of the sheriffs and everything came out and were like, "No, Governor, we're
Right.
not doing that.
right.
We're not your cronies."
Right. That's a big. I think God has placed it on my heart to revisit my "everything's going to be all right" statement that I made over 2 podcast episodes ago.
Is it, where everything was super positive and happy?
Yeah, because I do want to.
Technology is going to save everybody.
Yeah, and I think that I still think that that's true. I'm not rolling that back, but I will say that it is. I think I may not have taken enough time on the qualification of what I was saying, which is that I do think that there is going to be a financial crisis that's going to be so bad it might as well have been World War III. I don't think World War III is going to occur, but I think the financial crisis is going to be really bad. And I think America is going to run off the back that America is going to default on many of its loans, and people will stop. The globe will stop accepting the dollar. And when that happens, the entire global economic infrastructure is built on American debt. And the American debt is denominated and paid for by dollars. And so if it's not, if America cannot pay its debt using its dollars, we're in hot water. So I do think that there will be something like that. It's going to be very rapid, quick. It's only going to last a couple months till that gets cleared up.
China's going to send us to collections.
Right. To who? Like
that's what my
they're
point was. Like
the American Navy to go get American dollars.
So we'll be cut off, but I don't see what they'll actually do to enforce it.
Well, it's not even that they will be cut off. It's that when the international monetary system is so thoroughly married to the American monetary system that the American monetary system can exist without the international monetary system, but the international monetary system cannot exist without the American. So if we go down, it's not that there's anybody that's going to be out there to go to collections with us.
Right.
They're done. Everybody's done. There's no federal governments left. There's no national governments left to go after American debt. It's just that
You mean they'll all have financial crises because their money is tied to our money?
Right. So there's this.
So
BRICS
it's going to be
movement.
it's incredibly irresponsible for the most powerful and wealthy nation to have done this. Because we're hurting a lot of people throughout the world.
I mean, yes, but it was equally as irresponsible for those nations to get involved.
To tie it all together?
Right. They knew what they were doing at the time. It's just corporate federal greed at every level. That's all it is. And it's the leaders of every country on the planet, including America, siphoning the wealth out of the American people and just the American people. Like China is China because of all of the loans the IMF gave it and all the loans that American banks gave it and the American Federal Reserve gave it. But even then, like BRICS, they're trying to create this new economic alliance. The Chinese yuan or yen or whatever it is, their dollar is still in a convoluted, complex way. It is still completely backed and tied to the U.S. dollar,
fiat currency.
Yeah, they're not they're not separate.
The fiat currency is backed by another fiat currency.
Right, exactly. It's a very
house of cards.
Yes, it's a gigantic house of cards, and so it will fall down. And when it does, the other countries are going to have a really hard time. Like those people are going to starve to death in the millions. Like that's not going to be good. Here, it's not going to be that bad. If you're in a city, I would suggest buying like a pretty significant portion of rice and beans and salt, and figuring out some way to get water. But you'll be fine in a few months if you just lock your apartment door and don't go outside. The sheriff thing, the reason that reminded me of that is that I think now, if you ever have the inclination to move out of the city, I think now is the best time to do it, because there's really nothing. You can get a remote job pretty easily, and if you do that, then you can move somewhere where the sheriff matters, and that's a really huge deal. Mm-hmm. Because when what's going to happen is the American government is going to lose its ability to pay the military. That's what's going to happen. And when people's paychecks stop getting cleared, they're just going to desert. Like they're just going to the military will just dissolve, or they'll just follow whoever has the most reliable chance of getting them money, getting them their paychecks, whatever. Right. Like they're I have a buddy who's I talked about in the last episode.
Which might be whoever wants to usurp power at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Very like Napoleon-esque type strategy. My buddy that I talked about last time, who's a aerospace mechanic for the Air Force or the Army, I can't remember. Works on jets. I asked him if he knew that the jets he was working on were going to be used in a civil war, like there was an actual full-on civil war.
Right.
And he knew that the jets he was working on were going to be deployed to drop bombs and shoot missiles at American citizens, at fellow Americans, whether they be citizens or soldiers. If he knew that, would he continue to work on those engines? And he said yes. And I said, why? And he was like, I would just be out of a job. And I said, what would happen if you refused? And he said, they'd kick me out. And I said, would you get court-martialed or anything? He was like, no, they'd just kick me out and I would be out of a job. That's why he was down to participate in that structure. So that's most of them.
Monetary.
Right. That's the rank and file army. And so if the federal government loses its ability to facilitate them having a job, paying, giving them their paycheck, they'll just walk away. They don't care. They're not going to participate in that anymore. So just as much as you or I would. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously there are ideologues in the military who will stick around and stuff like that. But
oh, sure. No, there'll be a hardcore.
Right. But when the U.S. loses its ability to make payroll for the Navy and for the Marine, for the Army, for the military, when that happens,
just imagine an aircraft carrier size ship basically becoming a pirate ship.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of effectively
a city out there that they're like, well, until we get paid, we're gonna fish.
We're going to Portugal.
Yeah.
And we're gonna we're gonna aim all of our rockets at them and tell them you're gonna give us money, and if you don't, then we're gonna blow up 2 cities. Like, we've got a nuke on board of this thing. Like, what are you gonna do? So there will be like something like that could happen. Yeah, but I have no idea if there's any historical precedence for something that wild. But that's all like theoretical. Like,
there's a Hollywood precedent for sure.
Yeah. There's a movie precedent.
That would be a great movie.
Yeah, that would be a great movie.
An aircraft carrier that's
just
being
goes
taken.
rogue.
Well, yeah,
Economic collapse goes.
Well, there would
rogue.
also be factions on the ship. They're large enough. There'd be somebody holding out saying like, "No, we're loyal to the United States," and they're trying not to get blown up.
Yeah.
So they've got half the ship. So there's like a mini civil war going on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Room to room fighting.
Yeah. That'd be wild.
That would be a crazy movie.
That'd be a crazy movie. So
there you go, Hollywood. Freebie.
Yeah.
Make it.
Hyper premium. Hire us. We'll write you a script for that movie. I will only charge you $100,000 if you want me to write that script for you. Mm-hmm. So the point is that the federal government will get torn off the top of the states, and when that happens, you'll see there will be a what is it called? Oh my goodness! I use this term all the time. In Europe,
ultimately?
The Slavic
okay.
no the Slavic states in Europe separated. Oh my goodness!
Segregation.
Oh my goodness! No, there's a specific. Any other time, I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. This is good podcasting right here. There will be segmentation, segregation. The states will break off into separate countries, whatever. But while all that's getting sorted out, it'll behoove you to be in an environment where your sheriff is accessible. And that's what the important thing is that he is accessible to you and your friends, because then he will feel far more incentivized to take care of you and your friends.
Do his job properly.
Yes. Yeah. You want a good man as sheriff. You want a good man who's from your immediate surrounding area, your town.
Yeah. If that's his community,
he'll
more likely to, he's not like from New York.
Right.
And moved into a small town.
Right. Yeah, he'll care a lot
2 years
more.
ago.
Yeah, and you only that I really am of the opinion that whenever the thing that occurs,
mm-hmm.
There's a bias you can get from looking at things. So when I joined a fraternity, I joined a fraternity because I was not saved, and well, that's not true. I'd been saved, but I was still a young Christian. I didn't exactly know what I wanted, and I saw all these all this like frat life stuff had blown up on social media.
Oh, really?
Like, posts of great parties and people at beaches and having fun and pretty girls and good-looking guys. Like, everything's great and college is fun and sunny. And then I got there and I realized that everybody was posting the parts of their life that they felt were worth posting, which meant
sure,
that
very selective.
Yeah, it was unique. It was unique to them. The part of their life that was worth posting was something special.
Not the routine.
Not the routine.
This is not Monday through Friday.
Right. And so I realized...
Beach parties. Yeah. Every day.
Yeah. The thing that I would do to pledges is I would be like, quit recording. Act like this is normal. Act like you've been here. This is nothing to you. Do not record. We've got social media people here who will handle that. Post it on Twitter, who will do all that stuff. Don't record. Act like you've been here. Like, be cool, be chill, whatever. Plug into your environment. The girls will think that's cooler. Like, if you're like, oh, phone up, look at this, party going on. Like, you look like a scrub. Put your phone away. So that applies to history. The parts that got recorded were the parts that were special. For example, what I mean practically, the Great Depression, okay?
Right.
Great Depression. Everybody's out of work. People are starving to death. It's the whole world's collapsing. Do you know what the unemployment rate during the Great Depression was?
I've heard it. It was not as staggeringly
24%.
24%.
Not 1/4 of the people in the country had lost their jobs.
Yeah.
It gets blown out of proportion. And so, like, the thing that I would suggest to most people is that there's this Alex Jones. They're gonna put chips in our head and control everybody, and they're gonna grow babies in vats, and it's gonna get bad. And that the future is going to be of this terrible regime, the fall of Rome. We're in the decline, like we're declining. We're gonna get to the fall of Rome. My suggestion is that we are already there, and have been since 2008. My suggestion is that it has already occurred. Oh, got to bring the dog in from the rain.
Just realized the water kind of runs under the house, and I realized that's where she was taking shelter. So I was like, she might actually just be sitting in a river if I let her stay out there. We don't have a good spot for her yet.
Okay.
This is the first bigger rain since we moved in. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, no, all good, all good.
So, you believe it's already happened?
I believe it's already here.
Rome has fallen.
Rome has fallen. We are in the
rotting
we are in the
stage,
post-Bolshevik Russia. Like here, and here's the thing. Here's my argument, because you might say, "Oh, well, people were starving to death and dying in the millions, and they were genociding people, and things were terrible, and you couldn't say this or couldn't do that." There was bread lines, and I think that this whole situation, my entire argument, comes down to whether or not you genuinely, sincerely believe that abortion is murder. Because if you sincerely believe that abortion is taking human life, then America is the most genocidal country to have ever existed. And that's a social issue. It's not even necessarily a policy issue.
No.
The American people
No, they want that.
want it. They have a bloodlust. Mm-hmm. So we are already...
That's freedom instead of
That's
liberty.
freedom, baby. That's freedom instead of liberty. You're free to do all the bad things, none of the good things. Liberty is freedom.
If you're free, if you believe you should be free to have sex with anybody, anytime, without any repercussions, then you believe you should be disease-free and baby-free at the end of any kind of sex act you want to do with anybody.
Right.
And that's how we got to here, because of ultimate selfishness.
Right. Ultimate selfishness.
Nothing I do should have any repercussions negatively in my life.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's freedom. Freedom from responsibility, freedom from consequences.
Right.
Liberty has a lot of responsibility. I would even say that people who are concerned with liberty are concerned with primarily what they are responsible for. And they gain little bits of immature freedom as a side effect of that, but they are often far more concerned with the things that they are responsible for, the groups of people that they owe a debt to, whether that be their family, society at large. Yes. Yeah.
But they're responsible for the land that they own, for the houses that they own, for the families that they created, for the wives that they married, for the money that they earn. freedom would be blowing all those things.
Right.
And liberty is the ability to actually take care of those things yourself instead of having it passed off to a third party,
Exactly.
i.e. the government.
Right. And it's
or the bureaucracy, really.
liberty sucks sometimes. I'll be honest.
It's difficult.
It's difficult, but it's all this anxiety that people feel, the despair, the I can't buy a house, all that stuff. It is solved by liberty. Now, liberty can suck at times. The vast majority of the experience, I think, is of fulfillment, not of happiness, but of fulfillment, which I think is far more peaceful, far more long-term, far more, it's less, happiness is fleeting. You can be happy forever if you drink a lot. Like, that's it. That's all you got. But
just a constant dopamine high.
yeah, but my, I own 9 acres of land in the woods. I've got a small cabin that I own. No one is coming to save me. No one's coming to help me out with that. And the wheel on my push mower broke yesterday while I was trying to mow.
Do you have a non?
I have a non self-propelled.
Okay, but is it a motor or is it just the blades that spin?
Oh no, it's a motor.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way I'm doing the.
I have one of each because my mower was not working very well last year, and so I bought a cheaper.
Yeah, the blades that spin.
Just the push one.
How does that work?
If the grass is of a certain, if it's not too tall, it works okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's
yes, the wheel went off my lawnmower.
Yeah.
And there's nobody.
Nobody to go to. No landlord.
Nope. It's just now the wheel on my lawnmower is broken. And so I either have to fix it, which is not happening, or I have to buy another one. So I'm buying a new lawnmower.
What are you doing with the old one?
You can have it if you want it.
The motor still run fine?
Oh yeah, works great. I promise you'll fix it in 20 minutes.
Okay.
I'm just not gonna.
I'll take it because my motor is actually acting up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can have it for sure.
Perfect.
I'll bring it to church tomorrow.
Cool.
There we go, dude. Hey,
community,
gentlemen,
liberty.
Go to church, brothers. Jason just got a free lawnmower.
You get so much free stuff.
Yeah.
My last one was actually free too.
Sick. Excellent.
My friend who was moving out of state was like, if you mow our lawn while the house is up for sale, you may have this mower. And I was like, done. Turns out that was 6 months ago. House still hasn't sold. It's a raw deal for me. It's a really expensive lawnmower now. And a really guilt-ridden one too, because I haven't been out there as much as I should.
You got the short end of that stick.
Yeah,
my buddy
didn't think I was going to. I was like, this house is gonna fly off the market. No.
My buddy got a 2005 nice, like mint GMC Sierra, I believe. The Sierra is the SUV, right? There's a Sierra, the truck.
The Sierra is the truck.
The Yukon is the Yukon is the SUV. He got a 2008 or something, like early 2000s GMC Yukon, like 100,000 miles for $2,000 because there was something wrong with the transmission.
Right.
And the guy just was like, I don't care. I'm not dealing with this. Come get it. $2,000.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it for me. And he jacked it up, went underneath to look at it, and a large stick had gotten wedged in some part of the thing that compromised the transmission.
No.
And so he just reached in there and pulled it out, and that was the problem.
That is not usually the problem.
That is not usually the problem, but dude,
I would say usually the first guy is the one who's the wise one. He's like, transmission issues? Time for a new car.
Right. Yeah,
it's going to be as expensive as buying that car again.
Yeah.
Well, that old of a car.
Right. So that goes out to the boys out there. You can make a lot of money off guys like me, who just something breaks and I go, there's absolutely 0% chance I'm spending an hour figuring this out.
Dude, that's why when we moved away from any bigger cities, we were like, there is so much less good stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Craigslist does not have. Oh, and the thrift stores.
Yeah.
Back where in Oregon,
yeah.
It's like you could find nice stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, here, not as much.
Yeah, a lot
of people reuse stuff.
Yeah.
People keep stuff until it's so broken you don't want it.
Yeah.
Until it just goes straight to the junkyard, or it sits in their yard until it's really done.
Yeah, until it like just rusts into dirt.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone back the way of all things.
Yeah. Some dude's washing machine, just from dust it started and from dust it returns.
Yeah, exactly. It's back into iron ore.
Yeah. Yeah. What were we so? Oh yeah. So just live around a sheriff. It's a good idea.
Basically,
and if you live in a city,
small town politics.
yeah. Just try
much
to get
more effective at actually listening to the needs of the people.
Yeah, localism is coming. So I mean, that's the thing that I think you got to understand, that it is long form. So when the global system does, they are taking the poison pill. They are facilitating their own downfall with debt, and with the Central Intelligence Agencies constantly warring between themselves and internally. They are pulling themselves apart, and when that occurs, localism is going to be a huge deal, and that's going to operate into perpetuity. So all countries will get smaller. The U.S. will cease to exist. There will be 3, 4, 5 different countries that come out of the U.S. And that is the future. I really believe that. And when that occurs, the transition from a global order to a local order is going to be harder to make if you are in a place that is more dependent on that global order, like a large city. So getting food into a large city is going to be a real problem. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to move out of the city. It just means that you have to lock down food for yourself and shut up about it. Do not go to a party and start going, oh, dude, you got to get food. You got to get food. To a bunch of people you barely know, telling them, oh, everything's going to go down. I've had 6 beers. I got to start talking about how I'm a libertarian or whatever, and things are going to fall apart. You got to get food. Because those people are going to get hungry, and they're going to go, where can we find food?
Oh, that was that guy.
Yeah, that guy spouting off of him in the party said he was talking about us getting. I bet he
got a lot of
food.
rice and beans.
Yeah, well, let's go back to Rick and beat Rick until he tells us where that guy lives, and then they're at your house with kicking your door in. So put food in your closet. Don't tell anybody about it. You can just get rice and beans, and just get salt. Please get salt. Everybody forgets about getting salt. Get salt.
It'll be much more pleasant 3 months for you.
Yeah. It'll be much more pleasant.
3 months is not based on any quantifiable.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to communicate to people that
it's not going to be 2 days.
Yeah, it's not going to be 2 days, but it's not going to be 10 years. Like, we're not going back into some dark age.
People will be able to figure out how to grow stuff before 10 years is up.
Yeah, certainly. And
all the space along the highways will turn into small gardens before 10 years.
Yeah.
People will just be like, "Oh, this is government land? I'm starting a garden here."
What government?
Yeah, government?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
The grass is not getting mowed. I'm gonna put sheep here.
Yeah,
and eat the sheep.
What was I going to say? Whatever. Dude, I'm freaking drawing blanks and I should have gotten more caffeine. So, anyways, that's it. That's the point of... that was the thing I wanted to circle back and say. I've been thinking about that a lot. I just was nervous that I was... I just don't
so positive that
people
everyone would kick back.
Yeah, not done anything to prepare
for... Ethan said it was going to be fine.
Yeah, he said it was no problem. I mean, there's 14 people that listen to this, so
yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to ruin 14 people's lives.
We're up from 13.
Yeah, we're up from 13.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Growth, baby.
Yeah. Oh, there was. All right, we'll talk about that later. That's inside baseball. Not fun for a podcast.
Cool. Did you want to get into that topic you mentioned the other week?
Yeah, let's do
about the importance of suffering.
Yeah,
in building character. Was that it?
Yeah, I think what I said and the thing that I wanted to was, building character certainly is part of it, but I wanted to talk about the importance of suffering just as a positive force in your life in general.
Okay.
So this is.
You want to pause for a minute and see if it?
Yeah, I guess we can. Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna pause for a minute and see if the rain will clear up. We'll see you back in a second. All right, guys, we waited.
It's not getting better.
Yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening.
It might actually get worse.
So we're
going to push through.
Yeah. And this episode's going up no matter what, because it's the only one we got this week. So. All right. Anyways, yeah. So I wanted to talk about struggle as a positive force, because I think obviously people are struggling a lot right now, and they're, young people are having a really hard time getting started. There's a gender war, a war between the sexes, a war between the generations. Everybody seems perfectly happy to dog on young people young people seem perfectly happy to push the responsibility of their failures onto older people, older generations. And so I would like us to take a minute to maybe try to reorient people's idea of suffering away from something that's destructive and actually formative for you. Which I think will make people more grateful for what they've been handed, as opposed to more resentful for what they're missing out on. Which I think I think that's one of the key shifts you have to make in your life if you want to achieve any level of peace. Which peace I think is what more can you aim at in your material human life?
Yeah.
Than peace. So
the peace of God that passes all understanding.
Yeah, certainly. And the scripture is very clear about. I even thought last night I thought about pulling a few verses to lead this off with.
Yeah.
But I was with my family, so I just forgot to do it. But I mean, scripture is very clear about the way Christians should view suffering, the way Christians should view God allowing them to suffer even the consequences of their own actions. I think even there's scripture about God intentionally, it's not necessarily just turning you over to suffer some of the consequences of your actions, but intentionally introducing hardship into your life to form you. And so, I mean, I think a big part of the reason why I started this show, and one of the ideas that I included in my pitch to you when I asked you to join me on this, was that there's all this content out there complaining about the state of the world, none of it offering solution, and in a personal way, plenty of them have government, federal level policy solutions that you could, if you could wave a magic wand and change everyone's mind about a certain thing.
Right.
But nothing that you can implement in your life. And so I think one of the ways that I've talked about that practically is that there's all this stuff that's wrong in the world. You can't afford a house. You can't find a wife. The multiculturalism has failed. The global financial infrastructure is set against you. The wolves are at the door. The hordes are coming for you. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Because you're just going to die? You're just going to lay down and die? That's your plan? Is to just whine until you're dead? No. Take responsibility for yourself. Yes, the past generations failed you. They took advantage. They reverse saved. They borrowed against your future. They borrowed against our present. They borrowed against their children. They screwed us over. Yes, we've been fighting pointless, forever wars in the U.S. that have further financially screwed us. The culture is dead thanks to the boomers. Everything is bad. Yes, that is true. What are you going to do about it?
Rebuild.
Yeah. Are you, like, it is harder to get the things that you want in life than it was for boomers, for Gen Xers, even for millennials. If you're Gen Z, it's going to be harder. Actually, that's not true. Gen Z, by the time we're in our mid-30s, everything will be fine anyway, so it won't matter. But millennials, they got the real brunt of this, and that sucks. But you can. Max Holloway. Did you read that long email that I sent?
Yes, okay. I did. I watched the clip too.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
How did you? Was it cringe? Was that note cringe? Was the email cringe?
No.
Okay. I was really worried about sending that. I was like, is this gay?
My wife caught me watching the clip. I was like, what are you watching? And then I had to explain the whole thing, probably badly. So, and she started to argue with me about it, and I was like, I'm just
not my
trying to
idea.
give you. I'm just. I was like, why are we fighting about this?
This is not my
Yeah,
idea.
exactly. It's like I'm thinking about it.
Max
I'm
Holloway.
trying to explain what I think his idea is. Not trying to defend it necessarily to you, but I want you to understand where he's coming from. It's maybe not as gay as you think it is.
That's so funny. It's just not an email intended for women at all.
No. I left out the harsher parts, I think.
That's good. That's very good. Max Holloway has this interview from when he was like 16, and he's not a super articulate person.
Is he the he's the guy who won that fight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Max Blessed.
Max Blessed Holloway, one of
Yeah.
my favorite UFC, one of my favorite fighters of all. I love Max Holloway.
Okay.
He's got an interview when he was 16, and he's talking about how he got dealt a bad hand. His dad left. His mom did drugs to cope with it, and he was talking about why he was in the gym, why he cared, why he got himself up to go to school every day, and he said that no matter how hard things get, things are only over. It's really only over once you give up.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens, it's really only over when you give up. And he was just like, "What's that, man? You gonna give up? Then you a loser. Then you lose." And it's just funny to hear a 16-year-old kid talk like that. But that's kind of the things that don't kill you do sincerely make you stronger, as cliche as that is. And you get to decide what kills you and what doesn't, in a metaphorical sense.
I may have brought this example up before, but I had a buddy who went through the Marine Corps boot camp, and after he got through it, he goes, "Yeah, it's 3 months and it really sucks."
Yeah.
But he's like, now I'm not really afraid of doing much else with my life because that was so difficult.
Yeah.
Like, I think he may have gotten like hit in the head with a mag light by one of the drill sergeants. Like he felt like he was especially singled out and picked on.
Yeah.
He was a smaller guy. I think they called him Mouse or something like
Nice.
that. It was not easy for the dude.
Yeah.
And he was like sick through a lot of it. So he's having to do all this physical activity when he's ill and lost a bunch of weight. And he's not a dude who can lose a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So it was rough. But, afterwards, it didn't kill him. And he's like, yeah, I can do anything.
Right. I can do anything. Yeah. And so the point I'm ultimately trying to make is that you can see the hand you got dealt. You're 25. You're like me. You're in your late 20s. This is supposed to be building years. And I had to. It's really hard for me to talk about this using my personal experience to communicate this because I have rich parents. So it's difficult because a lot of people might be like, well, you had parents to bail you out, which is true. I did have parents to bail me out. But the
Really,
Lord-
that can be a handicap too.
that can be a handicap.
Big handicap.
It can be a big handicap. But also the Lord does not care if you have rich parents or not. If he decides that it's time for you to feel the pain, you are going to feel the pain.
Your parents will maybe not bail you out one time.
Yeah, maybe not bail you out one
They'll
time.
change their minds.
Yeah. And so, was that something on the... Just the thunder?
I think that was thunder. That was odd
It
thunder.
just hit
though.
the, exact sound vibration to, really shake the roof a little bit.
I guess.
This is good podcasting.
Commenting on the weather.
So that's I don't know. I feel like now I'm about to go into rambling. So what are you thinking? You look like you have something to say. Or maybe that's the look of you having nothing to say. I can't actually tell.
I'm trying to remember the last thing you said. The grinding.
So you can what I'm trying to say is that you can view the hardship that you've been handed. You can view that as a condemnation of your life and just write yourself off and go, yeah, look, I couldn't do this. I didn't get handed the exact opportunity that the people before me got handed, and so there's just no hope that I can get anything done, and you can give up. Now, I would suggest that the people who are most vicious about complaining about how bad things are today, even if things were good, they just want an excuse.
Still fail.
Right. They just want an excuse to not try.
Right.
That's what they want. They want an excuse to sit around and drink beer with their buddies.
If it's not handed to them.
Right.
Because they see those posts and they think those Facebook posts from the frats, and they think, if life is not like this all the time for me without any effort, then what are we doing? Why am I?
Yeah.
Why should I have to work for it?
Right.
They have no concept. Their parents never communicated the value of money to them.
Yeah.
Never communicated the value of working hard for something.
Yeah.
We were reading through a series of books by a man named Ralph Moody. It's called the Little Britches series.
Okay.
He was have I mentioned this before?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. This is back in early 20th century, I believe. But his dad was ill, and they were living in like Boston area and big city, and so the air pollution was bad, I think, for his dad. And so his dad was sickly, so they moved out to Colorado where there's clean air, and they moved onto a ranch and started ranching. And it was the house was in terrible shape. They had to like live in a hotel for a week while his dad, and he was 8 or 9 when they moved out. He was the second oldest sibling and oldest boy. And man, talk about putting in some hard work.
Yeah.
But his dad impressed upon him. His dad did anything for the family. And this is a spoiler. His dad dies at the end of the first book.
Dang.
when he's like 9 or 10.
Heavy.
It is heavy.
And is this his life?
This is real life stories.
Okay.
Yep, by Ralph Moody.
Okay.
Yeah. So but his dad communicated to him. His dad worked himself to death, is what it was.
Okay.
Like, he didn't quit, and whenever he would get wet or cold, he would like get in this racking cough. That was the problem.
Yeah.
And so I think he stayed out late one night to work on something,
Yeah.
or went out in bad weather to work
Yeah.
after his wife begged him not to,
Yeah.
because she knew it would be bad for him, and he did it anyway, and it ended up killing him. But he worked himself to death for his family.
Right.
And
No nobler cause.
no nobler cause. That's right. And his son Ralph, his nickname is Little Britches. He is a cowpoke. He gets hired as like a ranch hand and stuff like that, and he loves horses and whatnot. So he gets jobs like herding cows and doing stuff on neighbors' ranches and in town he just finds all sorts of creative ways of earning money. They're fascinating stories, and really they're written in a very funny way too. Like, just life circumstances are funny, and his observations about his own childhood were funny. They're great books. Our kids love them. But his dad, when he goes off to his first like summer job, where he's going to be working for like 3 months at this ranch and not coming home during the week, he's going to be living out at this ranch.
Yeah.
His dad said, make sure you give the man you're working for an honest day's work. So that's the kind of there's got to be a better word than thing. That's the kind of thing that that too many people in Gen Z and millennials weren't taught. Maybe for several generations, but increasingly so.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a compounding problem.
Certainly.
You have one generation who fails to pass on a certain value. The next generation is going to pass it on even less.
Right.
You see this with marriage and fidelity and everything.
Right.
If your parents were divorced or had affairs, you're statistically higher to also be divorced at some point in your life, and so it's going to keep on increasing. But if you don't believe that your employer deserves a full 8 hours of work from you for that day, you're like, well, Really, I'll give him 6. He's lucky to get that because corporations are blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Whatever, gripe.
Right.
And I'm not saying I've never done this, to where it's like, well, my employer's a jerk anyway. Not my current employer, but in past.
Right.
You know, it's like you can excuse poor work or whatever, even if you were raised like me with the good work ethic.
Right.
And like, you don't... if you're not working for your employer, if you're slacking off, if you're taking breaks you shouldn't, every bit of that is theft. You are stealing money from your employer by not working when you're on the clock.
Right. And also, I mean, one of the things that I really want to impress upon people is that it doesn't improve your situation.
No.
If your situation is bad, crossing your arms and harumphing about it and then and being like, well, I'm not going to participate in the game anyways, will make it worse.
You can't not participate in the game.
Yeah, it'll make it worse.
You just lose the game.
Yeah, let me make something very clear. The price of hard assets, real estate, gold, stuff like that has increased 70% since we went off the gold standard in the Nixon era. Incomes have increased nil, not a dime. So you are making now after COVID, you are making 100% less than someone doing the exact same job 50 years ago. You are significantly disincentivized to work harder than people that were in the past because they got more reward for their work.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the rub. It doesn't matter. Not working is going to make it worse.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is that this means that you have to work harder.
Winners don't make excuses.
Yes, they just work. They just work. So this is one thing that I can attest to. I'm a fighter. I've been training for years. I know how to fight. I know what to do in a fight, and I understand the fundamentals of how it works. If you're getting punched, the number one way to stop someone from punching you is to punch them. If you turtle up, if you put your hands up and try to go in the corner and hide,
they're going to keep hitting you.
They're going to go, oh, cool, free punches, and start beating the dog breath out of you. The best defense is a good offense. If you sit down and go, woe is me, things are not good, I don't want it to be this way, reality is going to go, oh, great, I get to kick the shit out of this kid. And you're going to get beat up. The only way to stave off despair is to work harder. And the point that I want to make today is that suffering, that working hard, the harder you work, the more space will get created. When you're in the ring with somebody, when you're in the cage, the more brutally you beat them. This is crazy. I don't even know if this is going to be usable. The more brutally you beat them, the more they're gonna start getting away from you.
Yeah.
You're gonna start creating space for yourself to breathe. I was wrestling yesterday, and so I was doing some grappling with an older guy, a guy that's like my dad's age, but he's been wrestling his whole life since high school. He's way better than I am at wrestling, and he knew that I was getting tired, and so he got on top of my head. So I was sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
And he got on top of my head and put all of his weight on my head and started curling me over so that I couldn't expand my lungs to get air. And the only way I couldn't, there's nothing to do other than fight back.
Yeah.
And when I did, I cheated a little bit, did a little jujitsu on him, picked his ankle. Wasn't supposed to do that, but it was okay. There's leeway there, but I got him pushed back off of me, and when I bought myself that space, that was when I had time to breathe. And so if you want time to breathe, if you want respite from the despair, you have to fight back. And every time you fight back, get respite, catch your breath, and go again, you end up being stronger. I started my career as a business person as a cold caller, sales development representative. Every single day, I had to make 100 cold calls to strangers, people I didn't know. I had to call 100 times. And I did it for 2 years, and it was miserable. Miserable. But now, on the other side of that, I can tell you, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I am.
You could talk to anybody?
Yeah. I went to this conference in Canada, and I just walked up cold to strangers, stone sober. Hey, man, what's going on? And a lot of them were caught off guard. A lot of them were not prepared for me to do that.
Yeah.
And it was awkward at first. Didn't faze me at all. Didn't faze me at all. And I got a ton of leads. I got a ton of new opportunity to do a lot of new business with people. It was a huge deal. And I never would have been able to do that had I not suffered through those first 2 years.
Of just cold calling.
Yeah, of having people be like,
grinding.
Is this a sales call? And me being like, yes, it is. Click. Never call me again, loser. Click. Like, my first job I ever got was cold calling pizza places. Those guys will straight up cuss you out. They're rude. They're mean.
We're trying to do prep work here, man.
Yeah.
What are you wasting my time for?
I don't have time for this. Don't ever call me again. Click. Like, mean.
Yeah.
And so all the suffering I've incurred in my life ended up being very productive for me in the long run. And so if you're like a waiter or something right now, and you are in despair or whatever, don't view the hardship that you're suffering through as persecution or as something that's going to permanently alter your life in a negative way. View it as something that's building thicker skin.
Yeah.
It's going to give you the opportunity to do something greater later in life. Because if you check out now, then you're just going to be a waiter. Is being a waiter fun? Do you like being a waiter? I would assume no. If you're listening to something like this, I would assume it's because you're grasping for hope somewhere, and you're just not going to find it in conceding defeat. You have to fight. That's your only option, is to fight. I mean, it's not your only option, but your other option is just to die, just to give up. And I'm sure anybody listening to this, sweet release. Anybody listening to this,
still listening after all the rain.
Yeah, after all the rain. If you're still listening to this, you know people in your life who've given up. You've got an uncle, or maybe you're one of your parents, or a brother, or an aunt, or somebody who just gave up, and they work some banal job doing something they hate, and they're grumpy all the time and smell like cigarettes, and they're just desperate, sad little people. And you can be that, or you can fight. Those are your options. And that's it. That's what that's the point I wanted to make, was that if you fight, you'll get stronger. If you don't fight, you'll die. Those are your choices.
I think this harkens back to an earlier episode where I said my pet peeve is when people say, "Oh, I can't do that."
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hated little nicks and little cuts and stuff on my fingers and hands. Stub your finger, or jam your finger on something or whatever, and I would get so angry. It was little. You get one splinter and be like, "Oh, good!" And
Yeah.
just like, I would get furious about it.
Yeah.
And so doing the job I'm doing now, where I get little nicks and cuts and stuff in my hands all the time, working with sheet metal sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like sheet metal will get you really good.
Yeah.
And if you've ever put a little self-tapping screw through into the pad of your finger because you're holding it on the backside in the wrong place, yeah.
That'll get you.
Oh, my word.
That'll send a hot wave of anger through you.
Oh. But you get more used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get better at getting your fingers out of the way.
Yeah, sure.
But you can't always.
Yeah.
But early on in working at the job I'm working now, I was like, I do not like this aspect of it. And also dealing with insulation.
Like
just having to get insulation on your arms.
Fiber, what is it?
The fiberglass.
Fiberglass, yeah. Yeah, itchy,
Just,
and
you become acclimated to the discomfort, and
Yeah.
it becomes more background,
Yeah.
more normal, like getting punched, I would assume.
Yeah,
The first time it happens, it's really shocking.
Yeah, it's quite shocking. It's
Very
revelatory.
uncomfortable,
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you keep going back, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
another lesson from those Little Britches books. He talks about horse riding. In horse riding, if you fall off a horse, it is, or if the horse is bucking you,
Yeah.
when you're breaking a horse and you get bucked off, said you absolutely have to get back on that horse the same day.
Yeah.
The reason will be, if you don't, you will never be able to ride again because you'll be too afraid. And two, that horse will be ruined because you trained it to go, hey, if I kick this guy off, he's not going to get back on me.
Yeah.
And it's going to be impossible to train that horse.
Right.
You have to show it, who's boss, you have to show it that you're not afraid of it, even if you're terrified of it.
Yeah.
You have to get back on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you will, like, to again reference fighting, when the first few times I got thrown, somebody hip threw me, my feet went in the air. The first time I got punched by a real boxer, those they are not fun. It hurts a lot. It doesn't even necessarily, getting thrown hurts way more than getting punched, but it's getting punched is the first time you really get hit by somebody who knows how to throw a punch is shocking. It's like totally, you feel it in your ankles. It's such a bizarre, scary thing. But if you continue to do it, your nervous system, this is research science, your nervous system and the soft tissue in your body actually acclimates to it.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't hurt. So now if I get thrown, like I got thrown a ton yesterday. We were doing throws yesterday in class, and it was not a problem. Like I weigh 270 pounds. I came from 4 feet in the air directly onto my shoulder and just rolled it out. Felt nothing. And and that's kind of what we're talking about here, is that like that relates to your spirit and your willpower.
Mm-hmm.
The first time you take a big hit in life, yeah, it's shocking, jarring. Your girlfriend breaks up with you. You fail a semester of college. Whatever. You get addicted to drugs. I don't know. Just the first time
you get fired.
Yeah, you get fired. The first time
you get yelled at by a boss, maybe.
Yeah,
there we go. That's not that's debilitating.
Yeah. The first time that happens, it is shocking. But if you can see that as a moment to grow and not as this like woe is me pity party, then you will come back with a nervous system and a willpower and muscle tissue that is now more acclimated to getting hit, and you will be able to. I think a big part of it is just being able to stay calm in the midst of dealing with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge part. Like the thing that separates a white belt in jiu-jitsu from a blue belt is, I mean, obviously talent, like or skill. You know, they've practiced a lot more.
Time, yeah.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay, I did jiu-jitsu for a little while a few years ago, and I just recently restarted. I tap every other white belt that I go with because they panic and I don't. And that's why. Because they haven't been fighting. This is usually their first time doing any sort of combat
martial art.
Right. And so when I start getting gassed, I start running out of breath, somebody gets me in a position I'm not used to being in, I feel uncomfortable, whatever, I don't panic. I stay calm. And that is only because those times where I've like been in the ring with another 200-pound Mexican dude who's on steroids and wants to kill me, I didn't quit, and I just kept going until they called the round or they called the fight or whatever, and so now I at least don't panic, and that's such a big deal. If you're in a meeting or you take a self-setting screw to the thumb, and instead of throwing a power tool, throwing a tool and spazzing out and
walking off the job.
Yeah, walking off the job, you just go,
I'm going to go put some electrical tape on this. Yeah. I'll be right back in 5.
I'm going to go get a water.
Yeah.
I'm going to just walk around for a minute.
Suck on this thumb for a minute.
I'll be right back.
Take 5.
Yeah. You go into a meeting. You perform poorly. You embarrass yourself in front of your boss and his boss or whatever. You go, all right, I'm going to go back to my desk. I'm going to breathe this one out. I'm going to take this L. It happened.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple emails I got to send up. Whatever. Maybe make your day a little lighter on yourself. I'm gonna get a burger at the end of this to make it feel a little bit better. But if you just keep pushing through, it's those people. It is not. I'll tell you right now, the people that made it, that I saw make it in my world, in the sales world, to get the big job, to stay at home from work or work from home, make a bunch of money every year, see your family, 4-hour workday, sort of guys. Those guys who kind of made it in the tech sales world. They were not the most charismatic. They were not the fastest, smoothest talkers. They were not the guys who had the sharpest angle or the memorized a talk track. They were the best. They were just the guys who didn't give up. Those are the guys who made it.
Yeah.
The guys that had the tenacity to just keep showing up every single day.
Just guts and grit.
Yeah, just guts and grit. And I didn't have guts and grit. I still don't. I'm not like a guts and grit person, but I sincerely believe that most people wouldn't know that hanging out with me, being around me. They wouldn't know that I'm like fundamentally kind of a coward.
Well, I'm fundamentally lazy.
I mean, I've just watched so many people who are supposed to be innately talented just not have what it takes when it comes, like emotionally, when it comes to failure. And so there's just so much of that is just.
It can kind of inhibit you. Having talent can inhibit your success.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example. Personally, when I was in paramedic school, when I was in the program, the head instructor called me into her office at some point, and I was struggling. I think I'd lost my fiance at the beginning of the second term, or over the break, basically, and so I came back extremely unmotivated and depressed, and making bad decisions and not showing up to class as reliably as I should, or anyway, I was poor performance all around. And she said to me, she goes, "You're very smart, like you're a very intelligent person." She goes, "But like you don't," she's like, "I think because of that you never learned how to like study properly and actually get the work done, because she's like, she guessed that I was able to kind of coast by with minimal preparation and whatnot." And nobody had ever said anything like that to me.
Yeah.
Nobody had ever made that observation. So I think that's, whether or not it's true of me, and she knew some about what was going on, but she also, and I was really pissed at her at the time, because I was like, well, my fiance left me. So looking back, it's embarrassing, but at the time you thought, like, oh, my whole life just crashed down.
Right.
And looking back, I'm like, well, thank goodness, because it was not a good relationship.
Yeah.
I'm so glad it crashed.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was life-shattering and embarrassing, because they told everyone we were getting married and da-da-da-da-da. We were making plans, and then just... and everyone wants to know why, and it's like, it's none of your business. I don't want to talk about it. But I think she was basically like, so? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's like, that doesn't mean you get to stop working, and like, you don't,
Wise
you're going to be in
woman.
the program or not.
Right.
She's like, and I knew, so I did grind it out, because I knew I wouldn't have the guts to go back and start the program over again. And I was like, if I don't finish, if I get kicked out of the program, I was placed on like a warning. Like if I had one more slip up or missed a single other day of class, like I was kicked out of the program.
Wow.
I was very close to getting kicked out of paramedic school.
Okay.
And not finishing.
Yeah.
Praise God I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was able to finish. But I chose not to give up.
Yeah.
And I could have given up really easily. But I also didn't know what else I was going to do. And I guess maybe I was just more afraid of, like, it scared the heck out of me to have to go through it again.
I mean, what better of a motivator?
I was like, I do not want to go through all this again. First term was hard enough.
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like, well, I could have, and it would have been way easier. I could have almost coasted through first term and then finished the program learning a whole lot more. So maybe it wouldn't have been bad for me. But I knew my motivation at the time, I would have felt so discouraged about getting kicked out or just quitting. It's like that didn't seem like an option to me.
Right.
So I also didn't quit on that relationship when I should have a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So maybe this just shows one of my inner flaws is not quitting sometimes when I should.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny that you said that because I was just thinking like
Need to walk away sometimes.
Yeah, the last caveat that I would want to make before we wrap it up here is that I think you do. I would want to just for the sake of helping people logically kind of square this away, I would want to make a distinction between quitting and cutting your losses. I think is a good.
There you go. No, cutting your losses for sure.
Yeah, cutting your losses, and when you're young like that, I think.
Like, say you own stock in a company that you know for sure is going down.
Right, just cut your losses, take the L.
Like, sell it out and be done with that one.
Right, and it's not like
as opposed to being like maybe.
Right, maybe
they'll pull it up and I won't lose.
I'm not a quitter.
Everything. Yeah, I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
It's like that one's dead. You might as well salvage $50 instead of nothing.
Right.
Or whatever it is.
Right, exactly.
$2,000 instead of
10. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so there is like what I think what Jason and I are talking about here is not like you don't want to get too caught up on the particulars. You'll know if you're being a quitter or not in your heart. If you're being honest with yourself, if you are walking away from something in the spirit of having this pity party,
I just don't want to.
Yeah,
it's hard, so therefore I will leave because it's hard as a quitter.
Right. When I finally gave up on college, when I dropped out of college, I had gone and gone. I had gone to several different schools, several different majors, and when I realized that it was finally time for me to stop, I did it prayerfully. I did not do it hastily. Well, I did it hastily for other people's standards, but I did it very not hastily for my standard. And it was because I knew that I had to do something else. And oftentimes when you cut your losses, you might be giving up on the option that is an easier route. Like I knew when I was leaving college that I was creating more work for myself in the near future than I was by just finishing out. Because I'd have that degree and I'd be able to skip a couple steps in whatever my next venture would be because I had the degree. And so I knew that I was creating more work for myself. And so that often is what's going to occur when you're cutting your losses is you might be creating more work for yourself in the future. But if that work is work that you should be doing, then you should quit. You should cut your losses and walk away. Because if it ultimately at the end of the day, that's what you're focusing on is just doing work you should be doing and not doing work you shouldn't be doing. There's a couple quotes out there. They're said by many different people, but they're effectively are working hard in the wrong direction is way worse than not doing anything or than doing nothing. Working hard in the wrong direction is way worse than doing nothing.
So continuing to do something damaging to
yourself and to your time
is better than cutting your losses and getting out.
Is worse than continuing to do something damaging is worse than cutting your losses.
It's worse than cutting your losses.
Right.
And
It's
getting
worse
out.
than cutting your losses and getting out. And so I do want to just end this with that caveat of like, do not operate in the spirit of being a quitter. Do not operate in the spirit of laziness, but also do pray and have the wisdom. And this is very hard when you're young to have that kind of wisdom. And so I think the thing you got to be very careful, like always default to giving it your all and trying to salvage bad situations and always default to staying in paramedic school. Always make that your default response. But if you're getting it should be incredibly, you won't have a question about whether or not you should quit when it is time to quit. There won't be, you might have doubt, but that doubt will not be based on any sort of logical reasoning. That doubt will be purely emotional. There's just fear about what you're going to do when you do quit. What's the next step? Yeah, so just keep that in mind. If you're a young guy, don't take the caveat we just introduced as an excuse to give up on things. Don't be like, well, I'm being wise here. I actually know better. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Part of that is seeking advice from other
older guys. Yeah.
Again, go to church, find mentors.
Yep. Yeah. If you don't
be in community, of more experienced and wiser people.
Yeah, and by older guys, I mean just dudes even 4 years older than you. Dudes one step ahead of you in life.
Yep. They were there most recently, so it's fresher for them.
Right. They might
be able to recall better what it was like in some circumstances.
Yeah.
Sometimes 60 years on down the road, it's like my grandfather couldn't tell you anything about what he did at a certain job.
Yeah. I don't remember.
He's like, I don't know.
I'm retired. I'm trying to drink beer. Get out of my face.
Over half a century ago. Get off my back.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot. There was a lot of that. Like when we had my daughter, I tried to ask my parents, like, what did you guys do? And they were just straight, we don't
I don't
remember.
know.
I don't
have no
remember.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot
What was your bedtime routine when I was 2?
Yeah.
I don't know.
When did you start spanking? They're like, I don't remember.
When it felt appropriate to do so?
Yeah. Yeah.
When we felt that you needed it?
Yeah. 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 So there's that. I mean, I think that's good. I think I'm satisfied with everything I've said. I think I've got everything off my chest. How do you feel?
Much better than when we started.
Good.
Well, the first half of this was,
yeah.
We got there. We hit our stride eventually.
Yeah.
Hey, that's coming back from our break.
Yeah.
I apologize for that. Sorry about the break.
Yeah. We're working on it. We're getting better. Jason and I, by the way, we haven't known each other for that long. We've known each other for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Is it even that?
Yeah, I guess it's definitely been at least a year and a half. Because I don't know, because you and I met sometime after we started going to this church.
Yeah.
So
I barely knew you when I approached you about the group.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we really have only
I had met you once, I think.
Yes, we had that
talked
one
like
conversation.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
And I asked Chase, I was like, do you think Ethan would be interested? He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll talk to him.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll be interested in him, but jury's still out on that. Yeah, so I think that's good. I think that's it. We're getting better at that. We are pushing through awkwardness and trials and stuff and rain and all kinds of stuff to try to make this thing work.
Yeah, it's a good illustration. This was not a pretty episode for sound quality.
Yeah.
Or a clear and consistent and line of thought, maybe.
Yeah, we were a little distracted
but
today,
we gritted our teeth and we made it through. So there you go.
Last 10 minutes.
We did all that on purpose just to illustrate to you, dear listener.
Yeah. This was all a grand scheme that we talked about beforehand.
Like, when's the weather going to be terrible?
Let's do it then. Yeah, so that's it, guys. We're at an hour 20. Probably edit this down to like an hour 15. But
my wife at some point was like, you realize he does no editing, right? She listened to an episode. Because there was some time when you said that and didn't edit that part out.
There are like things that I'm like, okay, I'm going to edit that out.
And I was like, he may have edited out a bathroom trip on that one, whatever.
Yeah, I always edit out the bathroom trips, and then there are times where I'm like, oh, I should edit this out, and then I listen back to it, and
I think it was maybe the times. I think you had said, hey, I'll edit this down to a clean, like, 50 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
and then it ended up being like an hour and 15.
Yeah, but then I always listen to it back, and I'm like, I really don't.
We needed that.
Yeah, we needed that, or that doesn't. So I always say I'm going to edit stuff out,
and
then I listen to it back, and I'm like, that's not anywhere near as bad as I thought it was when I said it. I'm leaving that in. No, I edit that out.
I think, yeah.
And then there's just every podcast I listen to is people are always like, we'll edit that out, and then it's
they don't.
in there. Yeah. So
all my favorite podcasts, they don't edit anything.
Yeah, they don't edit anything.
Apparently.
Yeah. And I always, how I feel about all that kind of stuff. I think it's all natural, just fire it off is a little bit better sometimes. But so I will. What is there to edit? I don't think there's anything to edit out this time. Oh, there's the front end. I was talking about the front end.
Okay.
Because we had that false start.
Oh, yeah.
We had the false start at the beginning.
Yeah.
This I will leave in so you guys will know we had a false start. So yeah, that's it. I think we're good, dude. Anything? Last final thoughts?
Nope.
No.
Go to church, everybody.
Yes. If there's one thing that we can say, it is please go to church. Please go to church.
Grow in your knowledge of the scripture.
Yeah. Build a community at that church. Find a good woman. Raise a family with her. We're praying for you. We love you guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.